Hey everybody, welcome back. So today we got a little bit of a special project. We had such great feedback and results from our video on the Magnetti Marelli EFI to carburetor swap on a twin cam, the early Harley twin cams 99, 2000, 2001, that when I got this current bike in, which is a 98, it's the late EVO with a fuel injection setup on it that we're going to be converting from the same crappy Magnetti Marelli fuel injection to carburetor. Decided it's a good time to do another edition of this type of video. So if you haven't seen the other video and you're looking for twin cam stuff, I'll put a link down in the description to that video. Check that video out. And if you're looking for how to convert your EVO from this junk fuel injection to a nice carburetor and ignition system that'll run and give you lots of trouble-free miles, stick with us, because that's what we're about to do. So first things first, we got to get all the old junk off the motor. So getting the top motor mount out of the way, this will allow us access to the intake manifold throttle body combo setup that came on these. You can kind of see that right in there. Gives us access to the 4 bolts to release those flanges. Then over on this side, we got to get the air cleaner off, the support bracket, and all that good stuff. Just basically want to get it torn down to your bare motor up top there, where you just have your heads and none of the old manifold flanges or any of that stuff in your way. So those can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes I'll use a 1/4 inch Allen, one of the cheap L Allens, and actually cut it down so the L part is shorter. That lets you get in there on some of those tighter fittings. Here we're just pulling the throttle cables off. Using the carburetor we're going to use, you will be able to reuse these throttle cables, so you don't want to mess those up. Then we're going to drop down into the cone here. Got the old crank trigger there. Going to go ahead and get that removed. Pull your standoffs out, pull that out. This stuff is trash, so I just went ahead and cut the wire, pull the old wiring out of the way. And last piece is the timing cup that mounts into the end of the camshaft. Going to go ahead and pull that off because that is EFI specific, and you're not going to want to reuse that with your new ignition, or you will not have the correct ignition timing. Now that we've got all that done, we're going to go ahead and start putting stuff back together. Nothing out of the ordinary here. If you've ever done this type of work, you got a standard EVO carburetor manifold. Reuse your manifold flanges from your throttle body. Install some new manifold seals. We like these James gasket seals. They do a little bit better than the standard ones. I'm going to slide the manifold in place. The slots go to the left side of the bike. Let you kind of slide the manifold in place with those bolts located. Just makes it a little bit easier so you don't have to remove all 4 bolts fully from the engine. You can have the left side, or driver side if you will, just installed in the heads and loose. The tabs slide on there, and then you install your right hand side or push rod side bolts. Working in a cross pattern to get that manifold snug down to the head so you don't have any vacuum leaks. Vacuum leaks are one of the #1 causes of poor running bikes that I see coming in the shop. There you have it. You got an intake installed. So quick shot here, you can see our old timing cup versus our new one, which is going in. It's just EFI versus carbureted timing cups. That cup goes right into this cone just like stock. Snug that down. And once you do that, we're going to go ahead and install our new cone mounted ignition module. Chose a Daytona Twin Tech for this particular build. but there's numerous options as far as these go. They all work and install basically the same. You slide your wires through the old existing hole, you slide your module in place and reinstall the screws and points cover standoff. Key here is you just want to make sure you don't get any of these wires pinched when you're installing your part. Other than that, it's very basic and straightforward. Get that locked into place temporarily and finish fishing the wires through, and then fish your wires up and into the bike where you'll be doing all the final wiring. Most of this will run towards the ignition coil. With that done, we're going to go ahead and install our Mikuni carburetor. Again, using the throttle cables that were already on the bike, we're getting those installed on the carburetor. Carburetor pushes into the rubber manifold. Always make sure you check your throttle action, make sure you get a snapback. Just real standard stuff here. If you've done any kind of mechanic work on Harley motors before, carb work, this is really nothing out of the ordinary, and a very basic, straightforward project for a guy in his garage. Once you do that, we install our carburetor support bracket. This particular bracket we use has a spot for the choke cable on it, or the enricher cable if you will, which is real nice. And we've moved over to the coil side where we're getting our wires all set up, just following the instructions for the Daytona Twin-Tech color coding on your wires. We reused the fuel injection coil on this, which had a plug, so we snipped the wires off of the plug, installed the Daytona Twin-Tech to the coil per the instructions, and we grabbed a switched wire from underneath the left-hand side cover where the fuse box is. That's a keyed power setup and powers the whole ignition from there. So, last big piece of the puzzle is getting the tank modified. You have to pull your top tank cover off. Once you get this off, you can look down inside the tank. You'll see where the hard lines are fixed into the tank and need to be modified. Basically what I like to do is the rear bung, which you can't see here because this is what happens when you film and work at the same time. You can't see, but down on the bottom area of the tank, which you'll see coming up here in a minute, we're going to drill out the one hard line. I believe it was a 3/8 bit. You just need to get the hard line separated from the threaded fitting that's welded into the tank, and then I just push it to the side inside the tank. Basically all you're doing is making a hole there so that when you put the petcock and petcock adapter in, fuel will flow to it. The other line just gets a plug in it. It was the old return line, so no need to mess with that. Reinstall your gas tank top cap, and you can continue on with the rest of your work. So yeah, now you see here on the right, we're putting the tank adapter in. These are made by Pingle, and just to the front of that is the tank plug. So one just fills a hole that you're not using anymore. The other one allows for the mounting of a standard Harley Davidson style petcock. One thing of note, when you do go to install your petcock, they usually come with a plastic strainer on them. The plastic strainers never fit through these adapters, so we just ditch that. Yeah, there you can see a nice close-up of the adapter. We put the petcock in. Back to what I was saying about the strainer, we ditch the strainer and we just use an inline fuel filter. Serves the same purpose and lets you avoid the hassle of trying to fight getting the plastic strainer through the petcock adapter, where the hole is just really a little bit too small and does not want to go in there like you would want. So there you see our tank complete. And last but not least, to disable the engine light on the speedometer, which isn't mandatory, but I just find it annoying when the engine light is on all the time. You're going to flip your dash over, your plug that plugs into the back of the speedo, so the orange and white wire I went ahead and removed the pin from the plug. You'll see here in a minute. Put the plug back together. You can see the pin hanging there. You could just as easily snip it if you didn't want to pull the plug apart. But I just went ahead and pulled it out of the connector, and we're going to wrap it up in some electrical tape. So once all that's done, we're basically going to have a complete deal. We'll put the tank back on, reassemble the rest of the bike, the stuff that you had, anything you had to remove to access any of the parts you wanted. Install your fuel line and fuel up the bike. Get ready for your first test run. Alright guys, there you have it. All the basics needed to swap a EVO touring bike from EFI to Carburetor. Thanks for being here, and we hope to see you next time at Gattis Garage.